All right, for these problems, you'll notice that they ask us in the instructions to go ahead and put these in factored form. You'll notice here on problem 7 and 8, one issue I have is I have different trig names. Like I've got cosine squared here and sine of x. Okay, so that's not going to work out very well. Same thing here. I've got sine squared and cosine here in problem 8. So I'm going to go ahead and use my Pythagorean identities here to switch some things up so they actually have the same trig name. Let's start out here with number 7. And I notice here that cosine squared is equivalent to this bottom row of 1 minus sine squared. So when I go ahead and rewrite this problem, I get 2 sine of x. Now here's where most people will make their mistakes. They'll forget the negative goes to the entire thing that cosine squared changes into, which is 1 minus sine squared of x, and then I still have this plus 2 out here. Okay, now I'm going to clean some things up. Don't forget this is like a negative 1 here. I'm going to distribute it in. I get 2 sine of x. This would be minus 1. This turns into a positive sine squared of x, and I still have this plus 2 floating on the outside. All right, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and rearrange this problem and put it in standard form. So I'll go ahead and lead with the sine squared. So I get sine squared of x. Then I have the sine to the first power. We'll go second. And that's a positive 2 sine of x. And then last but not least, I can go ahead and combine like terms and put this positive 2 and negative 1 together and get plus 1 here. Okay, now I have a standard trinomial, okay, other than the fact that it's got the term sine in it. I'm going to go ahead and make my parentheses. I'm going to split this up into 2 binomials. Again, my leading terms, whatever goes in these spots has to multiply to sine squared of x. And the only option is sine of x and sine of x. Okay, next I like to look at my signs, as in the positives and negatives, and I notice whatever goes in these last spots, the last positions here, the binomials right here and right here, has to multiply to a negative, or excuse me, a positive 1. And the positive tells me my signs have to be the same, and I look over here and notice they both have to be plus. So plus, and the only whole numbers that multiply to 1 are 1 and 1. Now, I'm going to go ahead and check real quick my outers and inners. Move this over. Again, I don't waste my time checking here. I know what sine times sine is. It's sine squared. We came up with that. I also don't waste my time checking this. I know what 1 times 1 is. It's positive 1. We came up with that. Okay, I do check my outers and inners. Here's my inners. That makes 1 sine of x. Here's my outers. That makes another sine of x. When I combine them, they do make the middle term. So it does factor correctly. Now, the last thing, you could leave your answer like this if you wish, but there is a better answer. And it would be sine of x plus 1 quantity squared. And either of those will work for answers. Okay, the second just being a little bit cleaner and nicer than the first. Okay, this particular problem, same concept. I'm going to go ahead and change sine squared this time. I notice sine squared here is equivalent to 1 minus cosine squared. So I've got 13 cosine of x. Again, where most people will mess up is they will not incorporate the parentheses. Because remember, negative 2 is being multiplied by everything that sine squared of x is changed into, which happens to be 1 minus cosine squared of x. Okay, I'll go ahead and distribute. I get 13 cosine of x. That's negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. That turns into positive 2 cosine squared of x. And I still have this negative 5 floating out here. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do, just like in problem number 7, I'm going to go ahead and put it in standard form. I want the square roots to go first, the cosine to a power of 1 to go second, and then obviously I'm going to go ahead and combine like terms and put these two together at the end. So I get 2 cosine squared of x plus 13 cosine of x negative 7. Now I have a traditional trinomial. I'm going to go ahead and set up my 2 sets of binomials in their parentheses. Okay, my leading terms must multiply together to give me 2 cosines. So whatever goes here and here has to multiply to 2 cosine squared of x. Since 2 is prime, I only have one option. It's 2 cosine of x and 1 cosine of x. And obviously, I don't need to put the 1 there in front of the cosine of x. We just know it exists. Those can be flip-flopped if I wish. Again, I look at my signs as in my positives and negatives. Whatever goes in the last terms has to multiply to a negative 7. And the negative 7 tells me my signs must be different. So my signs that go in here are either plus minus or minus plus. I'm going to go ahead and do negative and positive. And if those are wrong later, I'll go ahead and flip-flop it. Now, 7's a prime number. So I only have one option. It's either 1 and 7 or 7 and 1. And I'm going to go with 1 and 7 here. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. I'll go ahead and move this down. Now again, I'm going to just do a quick FOIL. I don't waste my time here. I know that would multiply to 2 cosine squared of x. I don't waste my time with the last part of FOIL. I know that's going to make negative 7. I do check my outers and inners. Okay, my inners are negative 1 cosine of x, and my outers are positive 14 cosine of x. And when I combine those, they do make the middle term, so it factors correctly. So my final answer, go ahead and get rid of that, after checking, is right here.